So, pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you, everyone. Welcome to tonight's board meeting. If you have a cell phone, you would be so kind as to either turn it off or silence it. That would be much appreciated. We will go ahead and get started with the meeting. First item on the agenda is always the roll call. Alex?
John Hedges.
Here.
Cheryl Armstrong. Here. Heidi Larson.
Here.
Ashton Overton. Here. Erica Weaver. Here. Jacob Uphaw.
Here.
Dale Ryder.
Here. Item 2, reception of visitors. We will start with 2.1A. That is an MHS 23-24 yearbook presentation. I think we have Laura Roberts, the MHS yearbook sponsor. All right, come on up. Come on up.
Yes.
I'm Laura Roberts. I'm the yearbook advisor. I've been yearbook advisor. This is my third year of advising yearbook. I'm Luke Douglas. I'm the editor-in-chief. This is my third year in yearbook.
I'm Jonathan Austin. I'm the junior editor-in-chief, and this is my third year in yearbook.
I'm Mia Shirley, and I'm the designer. This is my first year.
Okay, so for the yearbook staff, we run our class a lot like you would run a job or an organization. We run it as peers and staffers instead of students and teachers. We have our instructor, Ms. Roberts, but she is not sitting there telling us what to do. We as a student body decide what we do from the cover to cover of this book. We create a project every single year and we work as a team to do that. So the first piece of creating a yearbook is always deciding what your theme is going to be. And looking at this yearbook, you could probably already tell, but our theme for the year is scrapbooking. So this is our theme page. It tells you how we got about to the theme.
So the way that we get to the theme is we'll make a Google Doc and we'll have every single student pick out their own. We'll put it in there. And then as a class, we'll all vote for one. And yeah, that's how it plays out.
So we have probably like 20 submissions last year, and out of all of those 20, they picked down to one, which was scrapbooking. The next piece of that is figuring out how we are going to divide up the yearbook.
So every year we choose a different way. Last year we chose to divide them up by fall, winter, and spring. Here's our dividers.
And inside of all of these dividers, you will find what are called spreads. A spread is like two pieces of paper that cover the whole book. Every spread is based off of a different topic. So this spread happens to be wrestling. And as a class, we start with a completely white blank page. We start with actually about 200 of those. And from that, we create a template, which goes for every single spread. And sometimes we will change the colors or change slight dynamics of the spread to differentiate each different sport or event or student life. So here are some of just the spreads. And from those spreads, we have departments. So the first department that we start with is design, which would be beta for this year. We start with, like I said, the blank page, then we add in the background, then the color boxes, then the photo boxes, and all of the captions. And then from there, we'll insert your photos, which are all like the life of this page. When you open up these pages, you don't see the words first, you don't see what anything else, you see the photos. And then from there,
Then we have our copywriters department, and basically what we do, we just figure out the captions, we go and interview people, get headshots, and then we write our feature story, which is 250 to 500 words per book.
And then something that might not be so obvious is what we do in the back of the book. So if you flip to the back of the book, you see local businesses in Mattoon, Illinois. This gives a chance to all of our local businesses to promote themselves. Every year, we have a business manager who will assign different staffers ads to go get. We then sell these ads to be put into the back of the yearbook in order to promote their businesses. So throughout multiple pages, you'll see multiple local businesses in action. And then here's your guys' board. Alright, and then, like I said, from that we would build the cover. So the cover, we do online meetings with a professional designer, and the editor, junior editor, and the design editor of the year will help come up with the cover. Something special about this cover is that if you feel on like the basic just background, it's like a matte like finish, and then all of the stickers we have professionally glossed, so it has a different texture throughout the entire cover.
Now, this year's yearbook is a little different. But we set it up instead of departments, each and every single person either has an editor and then we have staffers. So there's editor-in-chief, junior editor-in-chief, designer, then we have the business, and then we have social media. And each and every one of us take care of that role, and then the staffers will list all of us.
And we work seamlessly as a team together.
Awesome.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Mrs. Roberts and students. Great presentation. Move on to the next item on the agenda. 2.2 non-agenda. This is the opportunity for the public to address the board if they so choose. I have one request in hand. That's Chad Larson. Mr. Larson.
I'm stepping up to beat you on the clock, Erica. I'm going to speak again about my concerns with our academic performance within the district. And if I recap, I spoke on this, 9 months ago, 10 months ago, when our report card came out, and our SAT scores, again, were worse than our conference for English and math. That our math proficiency is 9.8% proficient. That Chicago Public Schools is 19 and outperforms us. This has not always been. If I go back to the data to 2019, our scores were higher than the state average. Currently, the state average is significantly, almost 3 times higher than where we're at today. In 2019, we were at the state average for English and math. And I bring this up again today because in the last several months, I really haven't seen anything to address this, to show the concern or to address the concern. But I have noticed the June 28th meeting. And so on June 28th, we close the fiscal year and we have a meeting at, I think it's the middle of the afternoon, noon, something like that, when all of us are working. I was working. We had a meeting and we voted a pay increase for our administration. So based on our performance, we gave a 4.5% pay increase to our administrators. Not only that, we also renewed a 5-year contract for the administration. I don't have a 5-year contract. I work for performance every day. I don't think any of you have 5-year contracts. I don't think our teachers have 5-year contracts. But while we were working June 28th in the middle of the day, they met as a board, they voted their raises, and they voted for a new contract. I would believe your contract had expired, Tim, right? Like, it's a new 5-year contract, but I don't think your previous 5-year had expired. I agree with concern about that. That the district has one job. One job. It is to educate our children. Everything else we see, a great presentation on the yearbook, guys. I'm not taking away from it. It was awesome. Good job. Love the yearbook. But the number one job is to educate your children. And everything else is in addition to that. It cannot take priority. We can't come and do commercials for meetings to talk about how great we are if we're not addressing the academic issue. Wow, that's it. I got 9 seconds.
Okay, moving on, item 3, the consent agenda. The following items are on the consent agenda. Item 3.1, approval of the minutes, which includes the regular board meeting minutes of August 13th of this year and payment of bills. That's item 3.2. 3.2A is presentation of the bills for approval. Item 3.3, approval of the following overnight trips. The Mattoon High School girls volleyball, September 13th and 14th, 2024 to Alton. 3.3, MHS Drama Club to the Norman High School Theater Festival, January 9th through 11th, 2025 in Bloomington. Next up is the Mattoon Middle School Student Council State Student Council Convention, April 11th and 12th, 2025 in Springfield. The Mattoon High School Student Council State Student Council Convention, May 1st through 3rd, 2025 in Lombard. And the Mattoon High School Baseball 2025 USA Classic Mid-South High School Showdown, which is March 20th through the 22nd, 2025 in Memphis, Tennessee. Final 2 items on the consent agenda are the enrollment report and the approval of the Freedom of Information report. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda? Motion from Erica Weaver, is there a second? Second from Ashley Overton, discussion?
Yes, I have several questions, so let's continue. Tim, I have a question for you. 3.5 is the Freedom of Information report. The confidential minute says that we received 1 FOIA request. Is that the only request that we received since our last board meeting?
So that's the only request that's been received and fulfilled since our last school meeting.
The question is that the only FOIA that we have received? I didn't ask if it was fulfilled.
They will have to hold
Yeah,
it.
there was another FOIA, but we're in the midst of responding to that FOIA request, so it's not been submitted to the requester. And that will show up on next month's board meeting.
So does the board get information about FOIAs requested or only ones that are fulfilled?
Typically, historically, only ones that fulfilled are submitted, so we'll gather information once they're submitted. And the board will receive notice for the board report and the consent agenda.
Kelly, I would like the minutes to reflect that we received a FOIA, it wasn't fulfilled, and that was shared behind the meeting.
Wasn't fulfilled, point of clarification, wasn't fulfilled, what do you mean wasn't fulfilled?
Or what you said, I'm sorry.
Yeah, wasn't fulfilled, meaning we had to submit it back to the person responding within the timelines of the Freedom of Information Act.
I just making sure that if we have received one, and if not, the reasons why, that's important to me.
So we're changing the minutes or?
No, I just asked to reflect, I want the minutes to reflect that Mr. Condren said he has received another FOIA, but it has not been fulfilled and sent to the person who submitted the FOIA. That's what I would like in minutes.
And just for clarity, like Dr. Squizzy was pointing out, like we have a time frame in order to respond to that FOIA, which is, that's the reason why it's not been fulfilled, because that timeline has not been met.
And that's, I
Okay.
understand completely. I'm just asking it to be in minutes for question.
So we have a question. If we're doing it now, when we wouldn't normally do it, then are we gonna report it again next month?
Yeah, that would be typical past practice that the board has just chosen to act on as part of the consent
Then why are we changing it tonight?
agenda. I'm not suggesting it's changing.
Putting a note that it's stated.
I'm not asking to change the policy, I'm simply asking if it was received. I was given a reason why we are not, it's not in our board packet, and I would like the minutes to reflect that. If it's not an issue for you,
I need to move along.
I'm sorry.
Move along.
You were asking a
Move
question.
along.
Okay, you know what, let's not get into that. You have another question?
Yes, I have several.
Please.
The next question is, I'd like some clarity on overnight athletic trips. So there was an email response from Cheryl asking, and I received your email response. That's the standard operating procedure. If someone on the board asks a question, all of us receive information. And I'm wondering, what is the standard? Do all athletic events get an overnight trip? Do you choose some? Can you help me?
Yeah, so Ryan, you approved some of these field trips, so I guess I'll defer to you here after I explain kind of the general overview of that. But clubs request those field trips, and those activity funds, those, I guess, the sponsors of those clubs then use those funds in order to raise that for, whether it's registration, hotel stays, or whatever. The only, as described in the email that was shared with the board, the only cost that the district then absorbs is that of transportation. And I believe, Ryan, correct me if I'm wrong here, but I believe that that's a liability piece. So our insurance carrier makes sure that we transport our students to these events, to these clubs and activities. So the reason, and I think Cheryl also asked this in her email, the reason that you're seeing, I guess, a larger portion of those now, if you reflect back on what you saw at the beginning of last school year, you'll also notice the same thing. We ask administrators to communicate that to sponsors and coaches to get those in, so the board can then request approval of that, because it is the board's policy. So, which I think has been referenced also in that. Ryan, anything to add?
I think probably to answer, excuse me, the other part of your question as to the sports, like as a coach of 25 years, I never took a team on an overnight trip except the year we went to state. It's just not something I wanted to do. I think that comes to us if a coach finds a trip that they'd like to take, as kind of a team bonding thing like that, and they want to raise money to take that trip. I think it's on an individual basis. It's not like we do one for every sport or something like that. So, and then the other thing is the transportation piece is accurate. And there's some other weird things with transportation claim. We don't do our claim until the year after that fiscal year, so it just would be very convoluted if we charge teams and everything for the transportation.
I think the incentive used to be exactly what you said. So when teams made it to sectionals or state, they had something really special, right? Sometimes they stay overnight and went there. And it raises a question, I mean, we talked a little bit about Title IX, does every athletic team get to bring to the board or to Tim and ask permission to go on an overnight trip? So I'm trying to understand, like, is that the standard in the school district? And any athletic team, I understand FFA, I understand student council, that's their convention, that's something special for them. But athletics, to me, seems a little different, so I want to understand it. And I'm curious, has anyone here at the board thought about the liability of sending kids to Memphis with coaches in a hotel?
I think that's up to a student athlete to decide if they're going to go on that student trip. We're not forcing them to get on that bus. If they want to be with their team, they can. If the parent decides to sit them out because they're uncomfortable sending their child to Memphis, then they're uncomfortable. I have no problem with that. If I was uncomfortable sending my daughter, if she had something, she wouldn't. That's me as a parent speaking, not as a board.
And the question's raised, John, because as a board, we as a district really want something like happen. And so I was wondering if you thought about that, that's a consequence. I know some schools do an overnight trip, but have we thought about this? It's on a consent agenda. So that is a question that I have. Is anyone concerned about liability?
I haven't really thought about that. Yes, it's a major.
Well, to answer your question, if I've thought about it, it would be yes. I mean, I have considered that there is liability attached with that. I have extreme confidence in our staff and coaches and sponsors of events that if they are taking students on overnight trips, that they are more than capable of making sure that that's in an appropriate way, that those kids are seen after, protected from any dangers. Anything that could possibly go wrong, I have extreme confidence that our staff is handling that in the most professional and best way that they can, and that they're more than capable of taking students on those trips and avoiding any type of issues that would bring liability back to the district and back to this board.
I think the other concern I have with this is that there's no money attached. And that was a question that Cheryl asked explicitly. When you say transportation, Tim, how much will we pay to send the varsity baseball team to Memphis? It feels very uncomfortable for me to just, in a consent agenda with 12, 13 items, say, yep, I'm going to go ahead and vote for that with no money attached, when that is our responsibility as a board to know where the money goes and how much is for each of the events.
So with that question being asked though, are we just gonna take out field trips too? Because they go out of town as well. I mean, a serious question. I'm not trying to be rude or anything. I mean, taking out field trips too in this discussion because that's, a lot of them leave town as well.
It's a really interesting question, because a local business reached out to me in the last 48 hours and said, I am donating money to a local school to pay for their field trips. I have concerns with that. We have a varsity baseball team, and it doesn't matter which sport, volleyball's going this weekend, golf went last week, that we also have a fundraiser for Mattoon Middle School. They're selling mattresses. I can't even make this up. It is a mattress fundraiser. It is the truth, to buy drums. That is equipment is needed for the band. So when we look at these overnight trips, it absolutely doesn't make sense to me that there are other expenses. Another parent reached out and said, for the Mattoon Middle School baseball team, I have costs that I have to pay as a parent. So it's raising questions for me on the consent agenda about overnight trips. And Jake, this is not a question of whether the coaches, the teachers are ethical or responsible. Of course, they commute my children. I have 2 athletes right now in the high school. My children play 3 sports. I understand that. But you can't prevent children from leaving a hotel room at 2 a.m. You can't prevent a student bringing alcohol in their bag to Memphis or wherever they might be going. Those are things that you need to think about, and so they raise my questions. And Mr. Hedges, when you say, how about field trips? I understand that. They're often not overnight, so it's a game changer for me when you have a male coach and female players.
Right, but we can go on forever here. I mean, if I go to, the football team went to Albany this last weekend. What's to say that a sophomore doesn't bring a fifth of vodka on the bus and drinks? Are we eliminating the away games too for sports teams? I mean, it brings up some concerns here because if there's liability to take them to Memphis, there's liability to take them to Albany. And I can take that fifth of vodka from my dad's liquor cabinet as easy as I can to take it to Memphis. And, I mean, so where do you draw the line?
Mr. Conklin, do we have any support for students taking liquor or having liquor someplace? I'm confused. I think we are inserting one incident, one particular thing. If we have concerns for students, whether they're in Memphis, in Mattoon, Charleston, or even over at Eastern, which they go to Eastern all the time. Those things exist. That's why policies are in place. If you have an issue with this one trip, do you want to remove it from the consent agenda or not? I don't know what you're going to do with the rest of this right now.
Heidi, I do want to ask that. Is there a trip or a number of trips you want to pull off the consent agenda and vote on them separately?
Well, so there's 2 things that I think as a board, we have discussion.
Okay.
Discussion in front of all of these people and everyone who's watching about issues on the agenda, and in this case, on the consent agenda.
Okay.
So I would like to know how the rest of the board feels about overnight trips. So that's part of the discussion. As far as the consent agenda, I feel it's unprofessional that in 48 hours, 72 hours, the volleyball team is leaving that. I don't think that we can deny their trip. But yes, I would like to pull the baseball trip off, because I am not voting on something that doesn't have a financial responsibility to it and what that means. That seems
You want to
very
pull it
small.
off because there's no price tag attached to it?
And I don't necessarily agree with the overnight trip.
So is that the only trip you want to pull off? The others don't have price tags you can, you want to just pull off the baseball?
Actually, I think that's a great idea. I think that we should pull those off and we should receive the financial cost to those trips for the district. That's a great idea.
So we're going, just to be clear, your request is to pull off the consent agenda, all of the items under 3.3.
Except for 3.A, the
Well,
volleyball trip.
yeah, I feel like, I mean, it's
The overnight
literally on
volleyball.
Friday. I feel like.
Okay, I'm sorry. So 3.3 B, C, D, and E.
Yes.
Okay, so those items will be removed from the consent agenda. Now, because there was already a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda, we'll have to unwind that. Okay, thank you. Okay, the motion to approve the consent agenda as it appears on the agenda is withdrawn. Let's go forward with the remainder of the consent agenda. Absent 3.3B, 3.3C, 3.3D, and 3.3E.
I do
voting
have
on that.
one more question, if I can ask it, please. So the enrollment report, this is something that all of you can pick up outside if you didn't receive it. Basically, it helps us understand the enrollment within each of the buildings, students moving and coming. I would like to know, Tim, on the enrollment report, how come we do not include the lift building? Not in this chart, but in its own chart every month. How come we don't get an enrollment report on it?
Because I guess the majority of those students, which are MAT 2 students, are accounted for homeschooled. Same thing with any surrounding schools that send their students to homeschool because they're with them over 50% of their day. That is accounted for on their enrollment reports at their home schools. Does that make sense?
Yes, so let me ask it differently. Is it possible as a board that we get numbers on lift on an enrollment report that we include? I don't want it for attendance or state reporting, but the lift numbers, as they change, so does the fiscal numbers. Everything is each semester, students move in and out, and then more importantly, that those students that are in Mattoon are not paying tuition, those who are not in Mattoon, we are collecting tuition, so those are important numbers. In this, so having a breakdown of the different programs and how many students are in their semester.
Yeah, so just to clarify, the fiscal numbers would have to remain the same regardless of the number of students, because you still have to budget for that in order, whether we had 10 kids in there or if we had 300 kids in there. So I just want to clarify that I don't know that your statement was entirely accurate with that. But yes, I think we can provide a copy of the lift enrollment if that's what you're requesting, if that's what the board wishes to do.
So you emailed me a chart and it was all the different programs at the lift and how many students are in each section. The only thing that's missing for me is how many we're matching. I think that's an important number for us as a board to know how many students are in there. And it doesn't mean,
Did we get back to you on that?
yeah, I'm saying that chart
Okay.
would be super helpful if you included that.
Okay.
At least in some August, January, because those numbers fluctuate.
Is that the will of the board?
Yes.
Thank you. So, you're good with the enrollment?
Yes.
You are.
Yes, I just wanted to ask.
Okay. Do I have a motion to approve the following items on the consent agenda? That would be 3.1, 3.2, 3.3A, 3.4, and 3.5. Motion from Ashley Littleton, second from Cheryl. Discussion? Okay, Callie, can you call the roll?
Yes. Armstrong?
Yes.
Larson?
Yes.
Overton?
Yes.
Weaver?
Absolutely.
Uphoff?
Yes.
Hedges?
Yes.
Ryder?
Yes. Okay, well, that leaves us with 3.3B through 3.3E. I'll interested in the board's input on whether or not they want to approve those items or vote on those items as a group or wait. Oops.
What you're
I
asking,
get your suggestion.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Personally, I think it's disrespectful that there's not numbers. I think that is part of our responsibility. I think when you have an overnight trip, that we should have, what is the cost for the district? That's my opinion. You can disagree.
So would you want, like, I mean, if it's just transportation, then we would just have to have the cost of fuel and, but fuel is so volatile, it's up and down, how are we gonna get an accurate number? I mean,
Do we have a driver? Do we have a hotel? Do we have money?
it's just transportation, correct, Tim?
Yeah.
So it would just be fuel.
It would.
It would just
I
be
mean,
fuel.
it'd be fuel because, I mean, we're still paying bus drivers. But we can add that cost in. I guess I don't mean to speak for Ryan, but I guess we should hold that information. And I think we'll have to develop a process for our staff, the sponsors and coaches to go through it and let us know like how many students and what they're gonna have to put forth some effort into this as well.
Well, so I heard you say when you were speaking earlier, 3.3C, 3.3D, which is the Student Council State Convention and the State Convention, well, both of them are Student Council State Conventions, excuse me. One in April, one in May. You kind of alluded to that you didn't have a problem. So
I understand why they go, yes, and FAA seems the same to me. However, I think, yes, we should have a cost. If anyone travels, you have an expense report. This is not unusual, it's not uncommon. And when you said, Ryan, is athletic activities, is that expected out of the matching high school athletic budget? Is that coaches fundraising? Is that like?
It's just part of our transportation budget. It's part of our 40 fund and we budget. And again, a budget's a budget. It's like your home budget. You budget what you think you're gonna spend, but that's not what you always do spend. It's a budget. It's fluid, it moves and things like that. The problem you're gonna get into with some of this stuff, and I think I'm right on this, that the baseball team, when they went last year, I believe they took school vans, right? So you can calculate the gas and all that if you want to. Okay, we aren't gonna pay a driver because it's a coach. But when I do my transportation report, we have huge packets and you get reimbursable miles and non-reimbursable miles. And then you find percentages of that. It's a huge report. It's very, very lengthy. And then your non-reimbursable miles versus your reimbursable miles, basically, then that divvies up your salaries, your benefits throughout the entire transportation report. That report isn't even open until July. So if you take a bunch of vans down to Memphis, and those are non-reimbursable miles, you don't know how that affects the transportation claim until July. And there's so many calculations on the ISB website to figure that. Sometimes it's 80% of 80%, and when there's less funding, it's 75% of 80%. So getting an exact number on how much it takes to drive 3 vans to Memphis, I can give you a guess. But so it's basically, a lot of times when you budget, it's based on what we spent for trips last year is, similar plus a little bit of inflation for trips we're gonna spend this year. It's a lot more complicated than just figuring how many miles it is in gas. I'm not trying to be difficult. There's a lot of moving parts in a transportation claim and a lot of different variables that come into play. And it doesn't come into play until July of the next fiscal year when you fill out the report.
So Brian, is it safe to say as the business manager, you have a rough idea of how much the cost is, so that you can budget that as a school district?
And that's already budgeted into the 40 fund right now. I mean, it's
So having that number is super helpful. So I don't need it to the penny. I have to fill out these vouchers for it. I understand to some extent what you're saying. But the idea is the varsity baseball trip to Memphis a $3,000 budget item? I have no idea, right? And last year they received a meal based on that to the school district. So is that paid for from us? Is that fundraising money?
That would be part of the athletic budget.
So a rough estimate of how much is allocated to an out-of-town trip is all I'm asking.
Right now?
No.
I'm gonna make a motion that the board approve tonight item 3.3B, 3.3C, 3.3D, and 3.3E. And the reason I'm making that motion is because the coaches, the sponsors, the students have been teed up that we're gonna do this. And I think it is unfair for the board, which everyone on the board has voted for overnight trips repeatedly, unanimously, without $1 figure attached, to suddenly at the 11th hour say, wait a minute, yours is on hold. We may or may not approve it, depending on the number we get. I think that's remarkably unfair. Do I have a second on the motion?
Yes.
So Dan, let me ask you a question. If it's already teed up, why is it even on my agenda tonight? Why do we?
Because the board has to approve it.
Why? It's already teed up.
Okay, teed up means their expectations that it's going to be approved. And those expectations will be fair, Heidi, because you have voted for every single one of them without one penny estimate being attached for years. Everyone on this board has. Everyone has. And then at the 11th hour, to pull up stakes on these kids like this is, I think that's unfair. And I get that you're trying to make a point here, but I think maybe that point can be made with the next group, not these people who expected these to be approved tonight, just like the board has done for years, including yourself.
So the January, March, April, and May trip are teed up, and those are expected to go forward.
They are, they're on the agenda. You think that the kids haven't been talked to about that? Absolutely, they're on the agenda. Kids can read, they can read the agenda. You've never voiced this concern before, never once.
Well, Dale, there are a lot of budget issues that I've concerned about, and we've never had a mattress fundraiser. We've never had parents reach out and say, I'm paying for middle school baseball hats for my child to play baseball. So it begs the question of, how are we allocating funds? And is this a necessity? And maybe we should be providing funds for kids who wear Mattoon gear, who want to participate right here in our town to represent our school.
Superintendent Conrad, did we have, if memory serves me correctly, there was one group that missed the deadline on a meeting last year, and we had to have a special meeting just for them. So it's not that other groups can't submit these, but they have to be submitted, correct?
Yeah, I mean, the board policy states that anything over a 200-mile radius or extends an overnight stay is required for the board's approval in order for them to move forward.
So anybody can submit for a trip.
Right.
Bands, what have you. Okay.
Further discussion on the board on the motion in a second. Callie, call the roll, please.
Larson,
No.
Overton. Yes. Weaver.
Yes.
Uphoff,
Yes.
Hedges,
Yes.
Armstrong. Abstain. Ryder.
Yes. Okay, consent agenda has been disposed of one way or another. Item 4, reports and recommendations of the business manager, Mr. Gear.
All right, 4.1, conduct a public hearing concerning the adoption of the fiscal year 2025 budget for Mattoon Community School District Number 2.
Ryan, do we need to open the public hearing?
So we need a motion.
Okay, so I need a motion to open the
Motion.
public hearing concerning the adoption of the fiscal year 2025 budgets. Motion from Erica Weaver, do I have a second? Second from Cheryl Armstrong. Discussion? Callie?
Overton. Yes. Weaver.
Yes.
Uphoff,
Yes.
Hedges.
Yep.
Armstrong.
Yes.
Larson,
Yes.
Ryder.
Yes.
All right, so the FY25 budget that I'm proposing tonight will have total revenues of $51,009,591. Total expenses of $50,688,171. The proposed budget will have a positive balance of $321,420, excuse me. As with most budgets, we're trying to be conservative with revenues and aggressive with our expenses. And again, like we had requested in the past, the Form 5036 was shared with the board last Thursday, so you can get a little more detail than what maybe you've received in the past. So this is the breakdown of our funds. Again, the education fund is our base fund. So it pays most of our salaries and benefits for our teachers. It's also where most of the educational things come from, our learning. Again, you can see revenues there and expenses. It's 37 million, almost 38 million out of 50 million, difference of $173,224. O&M, which is our operations and maintenance, this is the upkeep of our buildings in our district, and a lot of our utilities fall under here. Again, revenue of 4.58 million, and expenses of 4.55. Difference of 23,000. And utilities just continue to rise and push our limits on this one. Debt service, this is our debt certificate, and we have one ARB left. And the total debt that we owe this year is $1,895,718. So we'll receive that and pay that. Transportation, $2.8 million. Again, fuel costs and things like that, so not a lot of wiggle room there. $12,447 is the difference. IMRF, these are our benefits to our hourly employees. It's also their Social Security. Again, balance of $54,514. Capital projects all comes from our local sales tax money. Again, those are upgrades on our facilities. Again, about $1.7 million. Working cash, $50,000. That's all going to come from interest in the working cash fund. We usually don't use that, but we have a fund balance in there that's going to should budgeted earn about $50,000 in interest. And the life safety, we really very little in this, $38,500, and a balance of $1,000. There's your summary sheet of all of our funds. Question, maybe? Question?
Can the public ask questions since it's a public hearing?
No, it's a hearing of a budget by the board that's held in public. With all due respect, yes, that's the law. It's not a town hall, with all due respect. Now, now I'll be clear. If a member of the public wants to reach out to a board member or an administrator, I would encourage them to do that with questions.
I'm not a lawyer, but is that legal? To have a public hearing where the audience can ask the questions?
Well, first of all, the public had the opportunities on the agenda. You took advantage of it. Good for you. That's the opportunity that that's the opportunity we're required to give by law.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Ryan. I have a question with regards to the capital projects and the sales tax. What has been our experience in the past with regards to our projection and then what comes in at the end of the year? Are we usually do we overestimate it? Do we usually underestimate it?
Last year we budgeted $3.2 million, we received $3.4.
Okay.
Again, it's one of those things, it's a budget, you don't know. And the enrollment, basically determines how much you get and things like that. So as enrollment changes, your percentage that you get changes. Our sales tax money, I budgeted again $3.2 million. 1.7 is here, the other 1.5 is here. Okay, and then to about 385,000 is evidence-based funding money that pays for our ARB loan. Yes.
And I don't know what the question would be, but can you explain to me some things, just when we had a phone call about it? Because I asked a question about, I thought that our budget was gonna be going down. And you shared like some of the ESSER's money and things. Can you share some of that? Because that,
Yeah.
I think maybe that would help to.
Right. So we had $3.3 million to spend in ESSER's last year. I was hoping to spend it all and get ESSER's off the table. I think a lot of districts they want to move on from that and be less reliant on that. We spent a little over $2 million on that last year. And the main reason was our projects that are being funded with ESSER's that just keep getting pushed out, like our chiller at Williams. That's being paid with ESSER's dollars. Our gym renovation, our gym floor was pushed back because, we had to do some leveling on the gym floor. It pushed it back several weeks. So that'll be paid. And our detection security, which are our swipe cards and our entry, keyless entries. That's all been updated in every building. That's an ESSER's thing as well. And that's right on the cusp of being finished in all of our buildings. And once those three projects are done, that's an $800,000 to $900,000 of ESSER's that rolled over into this year. And then we had some professional development and some other things. I think it's about $1.3 million that's left to be spent in this year. And we have to have it all accounted for by the end of September. And then we have to have it all spent by December. So we have the POs and everything, so it's accounted for. By December, and then we'll be done.
Ryan, you said it was the security system, new swipe cards, the chiller, and what was the?
And the gym floor.
Okay.
Those were our big three projects that we have funded.
What are the big ticket items under the operation, maintenance, O&M?
I mean, basically, we have some Johnson controls, we have some performance contracts that fall under there. One, high school, this is the last year one, it's $100 and some thousand. We have one, left at 74,000, we have one at the middle school, that only has 2 or 3 years left on it. On those, just the utilities, I mean, we're spending hundreds of thousands of dollars on gas, on electricity, on water, just things like that. Just maintenance projects in general, just keeping up with, we've seen boilers and chillers, or chillers now, probably boilers in a couple months. If we go through, we're dealing with buildings built in the 1950s, and when we didn't have money 7, 8 years ago, these things needed replaced and repaired, and we just got pushed down the road. And we're trying to update as many things as we can right now.
And I should have started my question by thanking you. We've had several conversations about the proposed budget since it was first put before the board, and you've always been very accessible, so I appreciate you filling me in on the details. Are there other questions from the board?
I have a couple. I'm anticipating that we'll talk about the lift in October, since I didn't put it on the agenda effectively this time. Question for you, so when we talk about the lift being at 1.2 without the building, the chart, thank you very much for sending to me that, it looks like it's 1.7 this year. Where do you see that in the budget? I mean, I know there's personnel that went up significantly, purchase services over 100% is increased.
And purchase service, a lot of times when we do purchase services, we get caught into this is buying a subscription, is that, something like that. Purchase service can be paying for a parking lot that's $500,000 from part sales. That's a purchase service because we're hiring somebody to come in. So those numbers, I think, when you're thinking about your subscription to Netflix or whatever, are very cheap. And sometimes our subscriptions are very expensive. But, so, I wrote this down for the portion of that some things to do. But, so I don't think it's as simple as just saying there's 1.6 million everywhere, because it is broken up into different funds. And like I said, I did. Is there another easy question before I get to that one?
So, Ryan, to be clear, just follow up, I'm not meaning to interrupt. That budget you're presenting is a budget by fund, not a budget per building or per program, right?
Correct.
So almost all of the buildings and programs would have expenditures scattered throughout at least a handful of those funds, right?
So I found my sheet. So of the lift budget, 1.3 million is in the ed fund, to go towards teachers, and 997,000 for salaries, 151,000 for benefits, 86,000 for purchase services, and so on. 278,000 is in O&M, and that's going to be just your bills on running your utilities and some upkeep. We always want to budget in case something does falter or something does break down, so we have some contingencies to do that. Now, when we do that, and if we put money in the O&M fund to repair something at lift and nothing breaks at lift, but something bigger breaks at Williams, we can always amend that budget and move it from one building location to another. But right now it sits in O&M. And then the other thing is there's $61,000 in the 50 fund, because those are hourly employees that work at lift. And that's a lot of the benefits come out of the 50 fund. So basically, yeah, so that pretty much sums it up. It's those 3 funds.
I have a question, can you remind me, I should remember this, but do teachers at lift get an overload? Because there's no prime.
Correct, because they don't include the number of planning minutes that is described in the NBA contract.
So despite some classes or sections of the class having 1 student or 2 students, that's a contractual agreement that they're getting overloaded regardless of how many students are in that class.
It's contractual. I think the idea that there are 1 or 2 students is maybe misconstrued, because those are afternoon sessions that we change our schedule around a little bit so we can accommodate people driving from further places and our high school schedule. So maybe it says 1 kid, and maybe 1 kid there for a little bit, there's other kids coming, so it's more of an afternoon session than it is here, because they do overlap quite a bit.
As I read it, it looks different, the breakdown for the lift day. looks different, which are trying to accommodate others.
We're just trying to make it easier for communities to come and work with their high school schedule around our lunch hour and dismissal times. Travel is an issue.
And it, you know, obvious issue that's been raised is as we're cutting teachers in buildings and as we increase class sizes, that is something that I'm wrestling with, like just numbers and overload and how teachers are, so.
They will have to speak to if we cut teachers.
I'm not cutting.
Is that accurate?
Wait, yeah, that's not accurate. I'm not cutting any teachers.
At the high school, you cut a teacher.
No, our FTEs, number of employees, fees are, this is the overall district. No, we gained a teacher in high school through another programs. So, we've not, reduction in force, we've not cut any teachers in the district. In 3 years now, people, if they left, didn't fill positions, but in other areas, we filled position and created new positions, so.
But it makes sense as
Yeah.
the school population continues
Sure,
to decrease
sure.
too, right? I mean, there's some enrollment reduction. in that. Thank you.
Me? Right else?
Okay, we need a motion to close the budget.
Motion.
Motion from Erica Weaver, second. Second from Ashley Overton. Discussion on closing the hearing. Ally?
Weaver,
Yes.
Uphoff,
Yes.
Hedges,
Yes.
Armstrong. Yes. Larson.
Yes.
Overton. Yes. Ryder.
Yes. Now it's time for approval, Ryan Day.
So 4.2, board action to approve the fiscal year 2025 budget for Owen counties. It's recommended that the board approve the presented budget. Before we get there though, I do want to make a comment. Anybody who would like to email me questions about the budget, I'll be more than welcome to answer your emails
Thank you, I appreciate that.
Thank you, Ryan.
anytime.
Okay, do I have a motion to approve the fiscal year 2025 budget as presented by Mr. Gill?
Motion.
Yes, second.
Oh.
Okay. So motion by Eric Weaver, second by Jake Uphoff. Discussion amongst the board. Cal?
Uphoff,
Yes.
Hedges,
Yes.
Armstrong,
Abstain.
Larson.
Yes.
Overton.
Yes.
Weaver.
Yes.
Ryder.
Yes.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Mr. Gear. Item 5, reports and recommendations of the assistant superintendents for, Dr. Scosa. Sorry.
Board headed for the September personnel report. As you can see, we have some certified resignations. Angela Olin is resigning as district speech pathologist, I should say retiring at the end of the 26-27 school year. Excited for her. She had served 21 years of service to our students in the district as a speech pathologist at that time, so thank you for that. Elizabeth Schumacher will be resigning as Maxton High School assistant principal effective at the end of this school year, July 1, 2025. For that, she's done a wonderful job and continue to support her future endeavors. Justin Strong is resigning as Williams Elementary School special ed teacher effective immediately. Then we have some certified appointments. Robin Atterbury, substitute teacher effective immediately. Linda Castile, substitute teacher effective immediately. Michelle Dis, substitute psychologist effective immediately. Kathleen Cody, substitute teacher effective immediately. Barb Kurtz, substitute teacher effective immediately. Heather Roch, substitute teacher effective immediately. Sarah Stremming, substitute teacher effective immediately. See, there's several retired employees that came back to subject. Classified resignations, Lacey Crawley, Little Leaders Paraprofessional, resigning effective immediately. Classified appointments, Heather Clarkson, Williams Elementary School, effective immediately, for a certified appointment there as that was a supervisor, Williams Elementary School supervisor. That. Rebecca Hopgood, Williams Elementary School supervisor, effective immediately. Deborah Callis, Williams Elementary School supervisor, effective immediately. Brock Montori, Mackin High School paraprofessional, effective immediately, pending his licensure. Then we have Sydney Plunkett, Williams Elementary School supervisor, effective immediately. Jennifer Westhoff, Riddle Elementary School supervisor, effective immediately. Kristen Gambrell, substitute secretary, effective immediately. Carly Bean, substitute parapros, effective immediately. Jennifer Webb, substitute supervisor, effective immediately. Jeanette Allison, all the way through. Megan Bernheim, volunteers, effective immediately. As you can see, people are classroom volunteers coming, which is always great. seeing more increase of that. Extracurricular resignations, Karen Brown resigns Mattoon Middle School sixth grade volleyball coach, effective immediately. Chloe Pruitt resigns Mattoon High School freshman girls basketball coach, effective immediately. Extracurricular assignments, Sylvie Gardner, elementary school soccer coach, effective immediately. Rebecca Crabb, recommending for Mattoon High School testing accommodation coordinator, effective immediately. Rachel Schaefer, elementary school soccer coach, effective immediately. We've got one short addendum. Certified appointments, Alex Kimberlin, substitute teacher, effective immediately. Todd Smith, Riddle Elementary School custodian, effective immediately. And Justin Strong, Riddle Elementary School parapro, effective immediately. And that should do it. Are there any questions?
Any questions for the board for Dr. Stacy?
I have a kind of random question, just a history question. Yearbook. They used to be school employees, right?
No.
They've never been.
Never been school employees. We had some school cooks that were still our cooks from previous contracts, municipal contracts. There was some agreement in those contracts probably back in the early 2000s, early 90s, which they were going to subcontract those things out to the food service provider, which was Earmark. So those individuals that were still our cooks, we had one up to, I think, a year ago, stayed in the district as district employees, and then as those people resigned or left, then Earmark replaced them with their employees. So as of today, in the district, we have no cooks that are Mattoon School District employees. Yeah.
Any other questions for Dr. Stacy?
Before I would recommend the board accept the September personnel report as presented.
Do I have a motion in that regard?
Yes.
Okay.
Surely.
Cheryl Armstrong, motion, second by John Hedges. Discussion?
Can I just
Yeah,
say,
all right.
Mrs. Schumacher, I am so excited for you. Thank you for being here and giving what you did. And I hope that you have an amazing experience working with you.
Kelly?
Hedges,
Yes.
Armstrong,
Yes.
Larson,
Yes.
oh, sorry, Larson,
Yes.
Overton,
Yes.
Weaver,
Yes.
Uphaul,
Yes.
Ryder.
Yes.
I
Items.
just want to note too, just so we have a district school social worker been looking for 2 years, so no social workers that are away. Looking for one, and we just had to create 2 special education positions this past week and post those. Those are new positions in the district because of the numbers of new students that receive services. So the only special ed teachers, send them our way, 2 new FTEs for the district. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Scosi. Item 6, reports and recommendations of the superintendent. Mr. Conrad.
Yes, the board should have before them, don't get used to this, this is the shortest press policy revision release that you've probably seen in the last 4 years. So please review, this is obviously the time in which we'll come back for the board in October to seek approval to amend those board policy changes at that time. So no action, just presentation for your review.
Any questions for Mr. Conrad on that issue?
Just one quick question. Blue lines, red lines, do we know?
Yeah, so what you'll notice a lot in this release is there's a lot of footnotes or date changes. So red line usually means that that's going to be stricken, or it's to draw your attention to this was the previous language. Blue lines mean the new language. Yeah.
Any other questions for Mr. Conrad?
This one has blue, but it has a blue line through it,
That would be a strike. So
even though it's not red.
part of this is, this was, unfortunately, I think this was a push to get this out the door from IASB's perspective, because this was cleaning some things up that came out of the last general session that occurred at the end of May 1st. So I think I would, if you have questions, specific questions, feel free to reach out to me, or you're also welcome to reach out to IASB, which is also on your press release if you have questions.
You good?
I'm good.
All right. Any other questions for Mr. Conrad? No action, right? No action required. Okay, seeing no further substantive business on the agenda, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I have one new business question. Tim Conlon, question for you.
Yep.
Did you FOIA EIU to receive round data?
Did I FOIA EIU to receive?
Round data?
No, I'm not FOIA anyone.
Has Brandon Wright, FOIA at Eastern Illinois University to receive that after?
Not to my knowledge.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion.
I've got one thing as well. In the new business section, I didn't know, I saw your video on Facebook, and I assume some of these people have shown up to discuss it. I was seeing if the board would entertain a quick discussion.
I withdraw my motion.
A quick discussion of what? The information that came out on.
I didn't see it, so you're, John and Bill.
I'll defer to you since you made the video, if you're comfortable with it, if you'd like me to go first.
Yeah, go for it. I'm open to any question you have.
Bear with me, it's a little bit long, but one of the items in our code of conduct says that we will abide by the majority decisions of the board while retaining the rights to seek changes if such decisions are made through ethical and constructive channels. I've got a problem with the video because I don't feel like it was done. I feel like it was cherry picked, and I've got a couple bullet points that I was wondering why they weren't brought up. If you do okay.
Oh, you can have it.
$1.2 million budget that we discussed in the video. The number, in my opinion, does not go down, does not go up if out of students are removed. Would that be your understanding as well?
Well, I think the issue that I have, and it looks like the public has, is this was sold as a business venture. We are collecting tuition for out-of-town students to pay for a trade school. If we were going to educate that to students, we probably should have done that at the high school or a building next to the high school, so we wouldn't have an additional principal, additional resource officer, teachers that have to have overload pay because they don't get a prep. That is a concern. That is what I understood.
But that said, on that point, a 400 lane vote, maybe last year, 2 years ago, was a no vote to not remodel that section for those trade positions. Like, do you recall that?
In high school?
Yes, the 400.
I don't.
The next, my understanding of the budget is what I said earlier, it's a static number. It does not go down, it does not go up with the out of town. Based upon the numbers that I'm referring to in your, I think some of the comment section, there was about 131 out of town students for the year last year. So that's about $131,000 on the table. So that number does not affect the 1.2 million static number of living, right?
So in theory, as you collect tuition, that should reduce the overhead responsibility that Mattoon School District has.
But the board voted to start the levy program, and we voted to allow students from out of district to come. Okay, so if the out of students are removed, they're 131,000 with on the, correct?
So who wants to remove the outcome student?
Well, it sounds like, no offense here, but if you charge them $3,400, you're going to lose. You will lose.
So the question is, who pays the $2,400? Erica brought up a great
I'm glad you
great
brought
question
up.
that she said we,
Leave me out of it.
well, I think you were on the board of the discussion, and so you said we simply just chose $1,000 as the tuition dollar. There was nothing specific that came up with why we chose 1,000, because we didn't know the expenses.
But
When-
that's.
And I'm sorry, I want to
Okay,
clarify,
okay,
because when my name is used, I want to be very clear. I didn't say we simply did anything. What we did is we have an agreement. I refer to the agreement, which is in place, which you're aware of.
Yes.
Okay, I'll refer to the agreement, which is a temporary agreement. It's not a long-standing agreement, it's not an indefinite agreement, it is a temporary introductory agreement, which any business owner would probably say, when I started a business, let me give you a 5% discount. You know what, but it's not gonna be forever. That's what we are talking about. That's what I reference. Now that I've cleared that up, y'all can leave me out of it, keep going.
Superintendent Conrad. My understanding is that students in the first 2 quarters, but we'll remember it, out-of-town students pay $1,000. Do they pay another $1,000 in after winter break for the second 2 quarters? So they are charged, if they come for a full year, $2,000 per year. Correct, that was not stated.
But it's accounted for in the numbers, because you can't, there, in the fall, there was 181 students, and in the spring, there's
But
182.
the video implies that they were charged $1,000. And it also kind of implies, at least from my side of things, and one of the people that I talked to that shared your video, was under the understanding that these children that are from out of district come to left and they are here all day. They are here for 2 hours a day. We're charging them $1,000 for them to be in one class for 2 hours a day. Is that correct? Is that my understanding?
You thought I said they were
Per- Yes, per semester in the fall, and then they pay another $1,000, they get another 2-hour per day course.
So you thought that the video alluded to the fact that
I do.
a student was here all day?
Yes.
Because they have to,
The
but John,
the
let's
gentleman that I spoke to
okay,
as well, I did not give that.
okay, so let's just think about education for a second, okay? Because when you're in high school, there are standard courses that you have to take in order to get your high school diploma, which includes English, with PE. We can't do those at the lift, right? So there's no way that we can offer a high school education all day at the lift. So if someone makes that assumption, with all due respect, I can't correct other people's assumptions that they may have about a student being at the lift for 2 hours or being there all day.
And I completely understand that. And we've had these conversations before, we've had tough conversations. I've been on the sides of the court, and you know that I've been, I always try to do that. I tried to look up tuition credit per hour from Eastern. I found on their website, it's about $338 per their website per hour of credit at Eastern. $142 per credit hour at Lakeland. So with $1,000, that would give me 7 credit hours at Lakeland and 3 hours, 2.9 at Eastern. I don't see how it's unfair to charge these kids $1,000. I don't see the argument here. We are, I'm not from Mattoon. You're not from Mattoon. Ashley's not from Mattoon. Eric is
Leave
not
me out
from
of it.
Mattoon. Cheryl, no offense, I don't know whether you are or not. But now, I know that you guys are graduates of Mattoon, but 5 of the 7 board members at this school district sit on this board from other high schools. MacArthur High School, Decatur, Illinois. I don't know where everyone else went, I don't need to know. But there's a couple kids over in that building that could be moving to Mattoon at some point. That Emerald Acres, I spoke to 2 guys laying concrete at 3 in the morning the other day. They were from the area of Peoria. People in Mattoon benefit greatly from the trades. I can't take that away from them. I will never take that away. So, no offense, Heidi, but I take great offense to the video because it, in my opinion, was cherry-picked to elicit a response. And you may disagree with that, and that's okay. That's a democracy. That's fine. You and I, you can call me, I'll still answer phone calls. But personally, I am very okay with $1,000. I hope the board's okay with $1,000. And quite frankly, that building over there is one of the best damn things that happened in Mattoon. No offense, pardon my language, I'm done. That's all I got for you. If you want to add any
Yeah,
more,
I'd like to respond.
that's okay.
So John, what the issue I have is, The lift was 1.2 million last year. That does not include the depreciation of the building, which is roughly 275,000 is the depreciation of the building. This year, the 24-25 school year, a rough estimate, is 1.7 million, plus the depreciation of the building, which puts us right at $2 million. How much of our $50 million budget are we going to pay for the lift while our public education is falling behind? The news flash is that education needs to be our number one, and that competition is going to continue to come to Mattoon in force. I work at Eastern Illinois University, and you know what? Professors who decide to move to Coles County, you know what they check? The Illinois report card. You know what? The physicians who come to Sarah Bush and the teachers at Lakeland, they check the Illinois report card. Because the number one most important thing to a child is their education. I went to public education. It allowed me to create and fulfill my American dream. I want that from Mattoon students, and I'm going to fight like hell that every student gets a great education at Mattoon. It is not saying we take away from the lift, but if we're not managing it, we're not measuring what is happening. We have classes for part of the day, because this is an interesting diagram, it will be on the agenda next month, we can dive in, that have 1 and 2 students. Some with the full thing have 4 and 5, where other teachers at the high school, for example, are on overload without a prep. So we have to look at the students, how we're educating, and it comes down to this, that the education of a student is $3,400. We're on par for it to be the same this coming year. $2,400 has to be covered by taxpayer dollars. The question is, are we all okay as a community of taxpayers to say, we're gonna foot the bill for the
But we're
students?
not gonna, we're not. We agreed to this bill, and regardless, that's why the budget's static.
John, who
Regardless
pays the difference?
Regardless, there's no difference. It's $1.9 million. And if the numbers for the last 3 years, I met with McLean last week, 2022, 98 kids. 2023, 181 kids. 2024, 259 kids. We are building momentum every year. Every year we're building momentum.
Okay, so John, let me compare apples to apples. So the data that I have is last year, there were 64% of the students from Mattoon kids. Okay, this fall, if I'm doing my numbers right, I'm putting you challenge, answer if I'm not. Right now, with the numbers, is 63% are Mattoon students. So what we are doing is taking Mattoon students from the high school and moving them to the lift. While the high school teachers, their class size theoretically shrinks, but we still are incurring a lot of costs as they move to the lift. It's a shell game.
So you say we're moving, they're choosing to go to the lift, right? Okay, I just want to be clear.
Yeah.
We're not shuffling things around. The students have decided to take advantage of the vocational education opportunities that lift offers. Okay.
63% was 100%. The budget is stacked, still $1.2 million. So we are not losing any money by taking the out-of-town kids away from us. We would actually be losing money if we took the out-of-town kids away from us. $131,000 to be exact.
So it begs the question, to me, that you examine the programs. If daycare creates revenue, perhaps we have more than one floor of daycare, right? If it's actually creating revenue, we look at the programs. And right now, the leader in D class is the largest class at the lift. I question whether it's a certificate program. I question why the leadership class isn't taught at Mattoon High School for every student. It seems like a great class. It doesn't seem to be like a trade like HVAC and MAC and culinary and daycare and communication and IT. However, if we are going to have certain programs that are really popular, then maybe we need to look at those. And those that have really low numbers, maybe this isn't necessarily my forte. I'm not an expert at this, but it does raise questions.
But who says McLean's not doing it?
Well, let me say this to you, Jim. The SOP at this board is that we don't have new business without permission. That's been a standard operating procedure. I will put the email response from you, Tim, on my Facebook. You can read it yourself.
Holy Christmas, okay, can I mean,
I'm finishing
minutes, can I just?
Labor Day, Monday, Labor Day.
I guess I can't.
I was with family, I'm a mom, I have a career, and I have small children. Monday night, I realized, oh my gosh, it's 8 days before the board, I need to put my agenda item. I was denied the agenda item tonight, which would have been to examine the list. And why should we look at the list? Because the numbers have changed, the budget has significantly increased. Why? Because it violated the SOP, which Tim is right. I should have emailed on Friday by 4:30 in order to have my agenda item on today to discuss the list. But today, we are able to discuss new business that violates the SOP that I've been informed about. I'm happy to have the discussion, but it drives me crazy that we cherry pick SOPs when we're going to enforce them.
Right, but why did we just put out the video instead of waiting a month, before, a week before the board meeting next month, if we're gonna discuss it then? Some of these people, I've never seen here before. I'm assuming they came because of your video. So I feel like that changes things a little bit. If I'm wrong, then violate it, that's fine.
As an
So
innocent
wait a
bystander,
minute,
I'm
don't
sorry.
we want
As an
community
innocent
members?
bystander, can I have a comment?
Yeah, let me finish this.
No, can you?
Don't we
no,
want
you're talking-
community
so
members
can
here?
just-
Do we want people to
Wait,
come and ask questions?
I encourage people to come.
Can we just, can we
Hey,
adjourn?
listen, Callie's over there trying to take minutes. She cannot type in. Can I, no, wait. Can I make a gentle suggestion here? Heidi, you've made it clear that we are going to talk about this.
Yes, we are.
Correct.
Yes, we.
So let's not have the full debate twice. Can we just say we're done tonight and then we roll this right into next, and I can't wait. We'll roll this into next month. We good? Everybody? Terrific.
So I'm gonna have to hold
Can
my.
I have a motion to adjourn?
So I have to wait until next month.
Motion.
You bet. John Hedges, second. Someone. Cheryl, thank you. Callie, would you please call the roll on the
I
motion? to
have no
adjourn?
issue.
Armstrong? Yes. Larson?
Yes.
Overton?
Yes.
Weaver?
I'm abstaining.
Okay. Uphoff?
Yes.
Hedges?
Yes.
Ryder?
Yes. I'll vote twice. No,
She
so-
voted.
Yeah, I know. I was joking. Okay, adjourn. Thank you, everybody. See you next month.